Let's talk about the finance bill. Yeah, the social media in Kenya has been red hot since the weekend when the news of the new Finance Act 2021 hits the wires. To a large extent, the criticisms of the document were focused on some of the provisions that relate to tax, such as the value-added tax or VAT. Joining me now as we unpack the Kenya's Finance 2021 with Joseph Mwaniki, a tax manager and oil and gas specialist based in Cairo. A good evening to you, my friend, for coming through on the show.
Good evening, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you. You folks were burning the social media over the last 3 days. What are the highlights of this new finance bill, and why are there so much social media angst around this piece of legislation?
Thank you, and of course, Kenyans were up in arms to express their disappointment, obviously because of the new tax measures that have been introduced by the government. And I'll be taking you through the new proposals. I will split this into two, between the direct taxes and the indirect taxes. Under the direct taxes, we have the corporate tax, and we have the personal income taxes. And under the indirect taxes, we have VAT, that is value-added tax, and we have excise duties and levies. Now, under the VAT, what we have seen is that the government has proposed to tax some basic commodities that are used in homesteads, like liquefied petroleum gas, and also ordinary bread, which is a staple food at homes. And I mean, that has been one of the reasons why Kenyans were expressing their displeasure with the new changes. We have also seen a proposal to remove syringes from the list of exempt items exempted under VAT, which is quite contradictory at a time when we expect that the administration should be doing massive vaccinations across the country. Of course, it's important to note that there are other items that have come as reprieve, which is medicaments, medical kits, food supplements and vitamins. They have been added under the list of VAT exempt items. Now, looking at excise duty, two major changes that have been introduced is to change the basis for excise duty on imported motorcycles from what is currently in place, around $100 per unit, to changing that to 15% of the value of the imported unit. Now, that is likely to increase the amount of excise duty to be paid. Something else very important that has been introduced is a 10% excise duty on imported jewelry, and a 20% excise duty on betting, which has been at 0% for the last 1 year. Now, that has 20% will be applied on the amount staked, or the amount that you put in, as a bet. Now, moving on to direct taxes, what we have seen is a move, to bring a lot of non-resident companies that are looking to invest into Kenya within the tax bracket. And that what is being proposed to be done is to widen the scope of what qualifies as a permanent establishment. Now, what we have currently is that if an non-resident ventures into Kenya, sets up an office or through a dependent agent, and has been running operations for at least 183 days, they qualify to be a permanent establishment. Now, what this finance bill is proposing to do is to reduce the period from 183 days to 91 days. In essence, if anyone trying to venture into Kenya has been in the Kenyan space for 3 months and beyond, they will qualify as a permanent establishment and will be required to account for taxes in Kenya. So in brief, I can say those are the items that I can pick on, both under the indirect taxes and the direct taxes.
Yes, I was just wondering, Joseph, if this new finance bill was different or is different from the new tax regulations that we're all talking about that will be introduced in Kenya in the new year? Is this finance bill different from that?
Right. Now, looking at what was introduced at the start of the year, there were two major tax items that were introduced with effect from 1st of January 2021. One of the taxes was a minimum tax. Now, this tax was to be levied at a rate of 1% of the turnover, and this was to be targeted on loss-making companies. Otherwise, profit-making companies would still pay their ordinary corporate taxes as they normally do. Now, what happened is that a lot of Kenyan companies that are in that category of loss-making, through their associations, went to court and challenged the introduction of that tax. And what happened is that the High Court of Kenya issued an injunction in April 19th, stopping Kenya Revenue Authority from implementing the minimum tax. Now, the other tax that was implemented at the start of the year was the digital service tax. Now, digital service tax will be applied in two fronts. One, on a basis of income tax, and it will be applied at a rate of 20% withholding tax. And secondly, through VAT on digital service at a rate of 16%. Now, what the Finance Bill 2021 has done, it has clarified issues to do with when one will be required to file tax returns under the digital service tax. And two, it has also clarified what qualifies as a digital marketplace. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm sure you can guess what my next question would be, which is, why is the Kenyatta's administration, President Kenyatta's administration, introduced very belt-tightening tax administration in Kenya at this point in time?
Right. If I got you clearly, I mean, even before the COVID-19 kicked in, in last year, the country was already, experiencing hard economic times. And so added on to the effects of the COVID-19, which has, resulted into massive closure of businesses and loss of income, the government has been running on dry, and literally they have to introduce tax measures to try to fill into their revenue deficits.
So what are the realities on the ground, Joseph? What are the realities on the ground right now in Kenya about the state of the economy for businesses to survive? Because folks need their jobs and companies need to run, but the government also needs tax to run, by the way.
Right. Just as I said, as you may be aware, that COVID-19 was first reported in Kenya on the 13th of March 2020. Now, what has happened after that is that the Kenyan economy has suffered massive disruption, especially to our manufacturing and to our service subsectors, specifically to tourism, then to transport, to hotel, entertainment, which are very, strong pillars of our economy. And so what is happening currently is that such businesses in those subsectors, especially in the service industry, have gone through harsh times, and many businesses, especially hotels, including five-star hotels, have had to close down, resulting into massive losses of jobs.
But how are you Kenyans coping with the state of the economy and the virus restrictions right now? Again, because Nairobi is under further restrictions, and at least about 4 or 6 counties around. On a final note, Joseph.
Well, what I would say is that Kenyans are known to be quite resilient and hardworking, and so what you have seen, most of the people who have lost their sources of income, their jobs, they have had to venture into different fields altogether. We have seen a new space altogether in the online, platforms. People have gone into taxi hailing hubs to try to,
Okay.
deliver
This,
items at
we
home.
love your resilience in Kenya as we have it also here in Nigeria and the rest of the continent. Joseph Mwaniki, thank you very much, tax manager in Nairobi.